Hello and welcome back to the Auto Market Brief. I'm Erin Keating, your executive analyst here at Cox Automotive, and I have a special guest with me today, Joe George. Welcome.
Thank you.
Joe is it's so good to see you. Joe is our president of Cox Automotive Mobility, and you're here to talk to me today a little bit about the future of mobility, transportation, vehicle ownership, lots of things you've been thinking a long time about. But just to make a brief mention of your career, because you actually started in this 36 years ago, is this right?
Years ago,
okay,
yeah.
On the auction floor,
On
right?
the auction floor, yeah.
All right, so 36 years ago, you've done operations, you've done sales, you've done marketing,
Product.
you helped get product, you really built Manheim to where it is today. And
Auto
then
trader.
you decide, an auto trader, exactly. Yeah. And then you decided, oh, well, let's go ahead and tackle another frontier. And you became president of mobility, Cox Automotive Mobility.
Yep.
It's so great. What a storied career.
Yeah.
I feel honored
great.
to be able to talk about it with you.
Very blessed.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I know that we've actually really been very blessed. And Cox Automotive Mobility is now, it's grown to $1 billion in revenue, is this right? And how long has Cox Automotive Mobility been?
7 years.
7 years,
Yeah.
Okay. That's wonderful. Do you mind just sharing for the audience what Cox Automotive Mobility entails?
Sure. Well, first of all, Erin, it's really great to be here with you,
Yeah,
and I look
thank
forward
you.
to having a great conversation. I always enjoy our conversations, on mic or off mic.
Yes, they're fun.
I love people that understand this industry.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, so Cox Automotive Mobility is made up of two main divisions. One is Cox Fleet, which is the largest mobile services company in the U.S. on commercial trucks, so Class 4 through 8. We have about 1,500 technicians across the U.S. Inspecting, repairing, maintaining fleets like Amazon,
Right.
Now UPS, Ferguson, Pepsi, Coke, you name it.
Small names, no one knows them.
Yeah. The other part of Cox Fleet is our third-party marketplace, which is essentially the AAA for commercial trucking. So if a Walmart truck breaks down, it goes into our FleetNet team, and they dispatch the right service partner for whatever that tire towing or repair. And we use a network of about 65,000 service partners across the country to do that.
Wow.
So that's Cox Fleet. It's kind of a new animal on the Serengeti, a new species. We're really excited about that part of the business. And then the other is our EV Battery Solutions business, which is our life cycle management, sustainability approach for EVs in the automotive space and hybrid batteries, both. And we're in there to help the OEMs with full life cycle management from repair, reman, diagnostics, and then ultimately pre-treatment recycling.
Right. I've had the pleasure of visiting the Oklahoma City facility. It's really impressive what they're doing out there. Yeah. So it's amazing.
Never a dull moment in that business. We were talking about never a dull moment. That one's got a lot of dull moments because no one solved these problems before.
Right. It's all new. Makes it exciting. Yeah. Well, so you recently got to do a keynote, I think it was, and you sort of set up your vision for what the future of mobility is. And one of the interesting things that you talked about was this concept of transportation as the economy, that it's not just a side story, and really focusing on mileage. And so I'm just curious, what do you think some people miss about the transportation industry right now?
Well, when we started the mobility journey, it was back in 2018-ish, and we had just acquired DealerTrack, and we were looking at Cox Automotive as a business, and 85% of our revenues came from car dealers then, and still pretty much do today. And we were like, how do we take advantage of the diversification that was happening in transportation? And at that time, there was a revolution in vehicle technology plus an evolution in the economics of transportation. So think Uber, Lyft, Waymo is coming on the horizon with autonomous vehicles. But also digital commerce was really changing the way we all shop. And so we started mobility to look at the opportunities that were going to be from how people move from point A to point B and how products move from point A to point B. And when we did that, we saw this whole fleet industry, and I realized, maybe I'm not the brightest crayon on the box, but there's not many services or products that we consume that isn't touched by a commercial fleet vehicle. And it's so many different instantiations of that, from ambulances to school buses to semis to bucket trucks to water trucks, fuel trucks. And all of these drive the U.S. economy. So that was a big part of it. And then it changed my thinking from growing up thinking about miles on a vehicle and how many vehicles are sold to why are those miles driven?
Mm-hmm.
And if you put fleet into the total miles, about 2 trillion miles a year
It's
in the
astonishing.
U.S. And what are all the use cases that make up those 2 trillion miles? And when you look at it that way, the cost per mile, who pays for those miles?
Mm-hmm.
Like we are a heavy user of Amazon and really digital shopping in general. And so we no longer use our vehicles to
Sure.
shop, but now Amazon does. But someone's paying for those miles.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just got a whole line. And it's not just me. There's a whole bunch of smart people
Yeah.
that have contributed to
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it's an interesting way to think about all of the transportation in the U.S. I mean, we've talked before about how I worked for a foreign automaker and explaining sometimes how big the U.S. is. I mean, we're really a unique market in the sense of how much transportation really goes into keeping this economy alive. But it's a really interesting point, and I think a lot of people did focus a little bit more on how do humans get from point A to point B. But
Right.
to your point, digital commerce changed a lot.
Yep.
And it had already been moving, yeah. So you have this miles redistribution and value, sort of you described this big shift. And I'm curious if there are any industries or companies that you think are leading the way in adapting to the new economics of miles.
Well, I think there is, like Walmart's doing a lot of really interesting things around digital commerce because they're competing with Amazon.
Right,
And I think we as consumers are going to benefit
right,
because we're going to learn we have alternatives.
Right.
And so as a Walmart shopper, today you can go to the store and buy it traditionally. You can go online, buy it ahead, have it delivered to your car, pick it up inside, or have it delivered.
right,
And now they're actually experimenting with sending an autonomous vehicle to your house and bringing you back to shop in the store because
Right.
what they're looking at is the economic of Joe going into the Walmart versus not.
right.
They know I'm going to spend more if I'm in there, so
Right.
it may over time pay for them to bring me to the store. And there's certain things that you may not buy online
Right.
either. Clearly, Waymo is another one that I would look at, and not solely because of the fact that it's cool and it's autonomous, but they're mapping the use cases of America,
Right.
and they understand why Joe does what he does, where he goes, when he goes there, and so they're collecting gobs and gobs of information about the use cases of the miles consumed.
Right.
And I think they're just going to get smarter and smarter about how to advertise to me and when to advertise to me and what to advertise to me based on knowing my travel patterns.
Right. How do you think this is really shifting how individuals think about transportation versus how companies might be thinking about it?
I think both are struggling with the affordability.
Mm-hmm.
Less businesses, but more majority consumers. Majority is dramatic. It's an important segment of our consumer base. Affordability is a real issue. So I don't know that people are going to wake up one day and say, "Hey, I want to have an autonomous ride to
Right.
work," or "I want to, do X% of my shopping digitally and have it delivered." I think people are going to naturally follow the money, and they're going to go with which is most not expedient's not the right word, but that fits their family budget the
Right.
best.
Right.
And it may not be certain categories of our society ever
Right.
fully go autonomous or fully, but I think that affordability is going to be a big driver of all that. On the fleet side, it's just been a core part of what we do as an
Right.
economy anyway. So you've got to get the service to the customer, you've got to get the product to the customer, and now more and more that value chain includes local delivery to the customer.
Sure.
So total cost operation now is a more important part of their expense structure. So they're going to have to understand it themselves.
I mean, with Kelley Blue Book as an example, we have the total cost of ownership. And, I spend a lot of my time saying, hey, most customers look at a monthly payment when they're thinking about purchasing a car. But to your point, with affordability and with fuel and gas prices as high as they are now, insurance as high as it is,
it's up
I do
12%.
think more people, right, it's up 12%. And more than the actual price of a car, because a lot of people are saying the cars are so expensive. And it's like, no, everything else around the car is very expensive.
Exactly. I mean, because now when you wreck one, now they've got to deal with the aftermath of that.
But to your point, I mean, some of these, whether it's autonomous vehicles that have helped, or the companies thinking more strategically about transportation and delivery and e-commerce, I mean, on some level, don't you think that's democratized, consumable goods to anyone who couldn't normally get to the stores and things, right?
Just think of the benefit. And this is why, Amy Mills used to say, the future's here, it's just unevenly distributed.
Yes.
And so, you think about aging parents or aging population and what an autonomous alternative could mean to them. Huge benefits. Those people with disabilities.
Yes.
People who are constrained economically can get, government aid through tokens that can get transportation to get to work. I mean, there's lots of really positive societal benefits to in the evolution of transportation. Now, and I'm a third generation car business person.
Yeah.
So my grandfather was a dealer. My parents were a car dealer. So this is like a little bit sacrilege. But,
I was about to say,
owning an automobile is not a very good investment for most families.
Right.
And so the fact that Henry Ford started out that way, it was patterned really on bicycle shops. And so the whole onus of ownership has been on us as consumers. The payment, interest, depreciation, repair, insurance. And so when you look at a family budget, it takes a huge chunk of their budget to sit unutilized 92% of the time.
Right.
So it's just like if you drew that up on a whiteboard and didn't have the experience we have, you'd say, why would I do that?
Right.
And so that is going to break down over time. As F-150s are $68,000 right now, and the median income is $62,000.
Right.
There's a disconnect in there.
Do you think commercial will go first, though? Is it easier for us to see commercial fleets and things like this solve that challenge sooner, and then consumers can kind of adapt to it? Or
it'll happen unevenly.
Right.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
I think that Amazon certainly is going to keep pushing that number down.
Right.
Because they've got Uber. Their biggest cost structure is their driver.
Right.
In their model. Waymo, I think their motivation is completely different. I don't think they want to monetize the transportation. They want to monetize the life experience and get more engaged with the consumer, with the data products that they can sell.
Interesting. Okay.
And then on the commercial side, trucking is very expensive. It's very dangerous. You have these nuclear verdicts from juries all over the U.S. Right. And so does a autonomous truck running platoon of trucks running overnight, is that a safer alternative?
Right. And we're short on drivers as well.
And people aren't lining up to be drivers.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I think it'll be spotty all over, but the technologies are here.
Sure.
It's now the economics have to catch up.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Well, and the technology's been here for quite some time. I mean, if you think about ACEs, right? This is what autonomous, connected, electric,
and shared.
Shared, right? Yeah. Okay. So that's been around for quite some time.
Long time.
And we've gone back and forth over vehicles being able to drive themselves, doing, I remember when I worked at Audi, there was like a whole idea that maybe people would want to rent or be in a subscription where they could trade out their cars every so often. So the industry's certainly been grappling with how do you commercialize this in a way that people can really get access to it. But I think that your general thesis here on total miles driven, and how do you help, share the burden of those costs and where it gets distributed is a really interesting one. What's some of the technology that you're most excited about?
Well, certainly autonomy, companies like Aurora, Waymo, even Zoox with Amazon, they're really making some interesting. And then, the electric vertical takeoff and landing companies like Archer Aviation,
right.
JADO, and there's some really interesting things happening eVTOL. And so the good news about is technology is the vehicles are going to get safer.
Sure.
They're going to start protecting us from texting and because we're good drivers, but we're not great drivers.
Yeah,
and,
as we were talking about before the show.
Yeah, so
my son was
exactly,
texting, and that's
exactly.
how the car ends up on its side.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I think the cars will just continue to get safer and safer. And then there'll be, so autonomy, just if you sit quietly and you think about an autonomous future, the possibilities are really endless.
Sure.
And as a son with aging parents, just the opportunities to to know that my parents got picked up for a doctor's appointment. Mm-hmm. They made it to the doctor's appointment.
Right.
And then they were picked back up and taken home if I can't do it. Mm-hmm. And I can monitor the whole sequence. I mean, those are the kinds of things I think are going to make it a positive. Electrification is it's not new. We've had a battery in the car. The first Model Ts were electric.
Right.
So it's not like this is this new adventure. And the nature of hybrid is going to evolve.
Sure.
Some to full electric, but I don't know that internal combustion is completely out of the picture anytime soon. So, but you may have all electric motors under the car, but you'd never know because most people, the black plastic they put over top of the engine when you pop the hood just says if you can't take this off, you can't work on this thing.
Right.
So no one knows what's underneath that, right?
Yeah, gone are the days where people are in their driveways on Sundays finding something to fix in their cars.
Right. So, you may have a hybrid drive system that is really 80% electric, 20% internal combustion engine.
Right.
And you shouldn't care.
Right.
You should just, does it get me to point A to point B? Is it safe and sustainable and affordable?
So the technology is there. I think we know that it's only going to keep getting better. What's the operational reality around it, though? What are some of the barriers, and what does it really look like in practice now and maybe 5 years, 10 years in the future?
Yeah, I mean, electrification has a whole bunch of challenges, right? I mean, the access, multifamily dwellings, because if you don't have your own garage and you don't install the charging equipment, then you're on public charging.
Right.
So that all has to be sorted out. But, it took a long time for gas stations to go from, one in town to one on every corner. So electrification will have the same implications. And then just the power grid, making sure we have enough electrons going into the grid to put through these chargers into the vehicles. But I look at all those as business opportunities for companies like Cox and others to help solve the problem. Now, the fact that data centers now are popped on the horizon, and now we've got all this insatiable desire for electrons, that'll all need to be sorted out. But I, we'll figure that.
And what about autonomous? Do you see specific barriers there?
I can tell you that I go bullish and bearish on it, depending on kind of the time of the year, sometimes time of the day. But, I think Waymo's getting darn close.
Sure.
And, I don't know that it's not going to be every use case application, but for, sort of local routing, community-based routing, I mean, they're really, really close. And the beauty of, and the first time I spent time with the Waymo team, I was out in Phoenix, and the head of their automotive program told me something that really stuck with me. He's like, the beauty of, he had teenage kids like us, right? So mine aren't teenagers anymore. I want to act like they're teenagers.
You can act like it. It's okay.
He said, every night, all these cars upload the data from the day.
Right.
And then it gets processed, and then it gets collectively pushed down to all the vehicles in the fleet. So you have a fleet that in totality gets better every day. Whereas, like when I taught my son how to drive, I took him into the high school parking lot. He got, maybe 4 hours of, really stressful training. And then we kind of make sure he has to have somebody in there with him for a while, and then they're on their own.
Right.
These autonomous vehicles are collectively more intelligent every day.
That's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about the fact that, you have this collective learning as opposed to one-on-one sort of instruction.
But Google's a data company, so
Right.
it's, that's kind of the direction they went.
Yeah,
with
completely
it.
makes sense. I mean, I still mourn the loss of getting to teach a kid how to drive manual,
No,
but
I get it. I'm with you. I always thought electric vehicles were golf carts, and I would never drive one. I love the sound of a BMW or whatever. And, now I've got 2 electric vehicles.
I agree completely. I was a skeptic, and now I drive an EV, and I realized the performance.
And it took, when I was talking to RJ before we made the investment, what he told me is people get lost in the fact that these are electric vehicles. And the beauty that he's had is he had a clean sheet of paper to start from.
Right. And
the operating systems are. So the in-car experience is always evolving, and it's getting better and better. And that's just like a new. You don't have to go buy the latest model. Right. You just buy the latest upgrade. And
I always say it was like a marketing problem more than anything, because it's just an alternative powertrain. But we made it into something that was very outlandish, and you'd only find it in Mars. And it was, and the models, admittedly, not everyone loved the way that the Teslas looked and things like this. So at the end of the day,
I was at a Transportation Energy Institute board meeting, and I was this political, it was like a chief of staff from one of the presidents came in, he talked to us, he said, the worst thing that Ford, like just an example, you don't put a green leaf on the side of a Ford F-150.
Right.
You put an American flag on the side of it.
Exactly.
And you say these are American technology built by Americans.
Right.
Not that it's better for,
right. Exactly.
for the environment. Yeah. Your customer base, a lot of them don't care about that.
Yeah, and we get caught up in some of those messages.
Then it got political.
Exactly right.
Now we're going to lose even more ground to the Chinese in electrification. So
right, yeah.
I hope not, but...
Yeah, but it's, it's difficult.
I hope Mary Barr keeps pushing.
I think we'll get there here in the U.S. I have a little faith there that we'll be able to get there, but I do think that it's a big tide of making people understand how universal these platforms are, how there's no real, we're just talking about powertrain. We're not talking about a whole new technology that you've got to figure out.
Right.
Marketing is, same thing with autonomy. I think once people get a little bit more used to it, and I think putting it in perspective, I think we were talking the other day to the strategy team and, saying, are we going to have 500,000 robotaxis in play? And, when people hear that, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, well, remember we have over 300 million vehicles in operation. Exactly. So don't worry. The robots aren't taking over.
Absolutely not.
Right?
Not anytime soon.
But they're creating efficiencies where we actually really need it in society. And
That's
I think
exactly
that's an important goal to focus on.
Right.
So when you think about leadership and looking towards the future, what would be your advice to someone who's thinking about the future of mobility and how they need to, what systems thinking do they need to have to see the full picture?
Well, let's start with there's 300 million. You know what I mean? So,
right.
And they're all, the vast majority of them are internal combustion engine. And it's going to take a long time for that fleet to change over.
Sure.
So, but if I was 35, 30 again, and I was looking at a career in automotive or transportation or mobility, whatever you want to call it, I think that the future innovation and the future careers and future executive leadership is going to be driven by those that want to help make things better, right? And whether that's affordability for the American family in transportation or, different use cases. And technology, to me, is a tool to accomplish that. It's not the
end.
It's not that it's electric. It's
right.
How does it solve the use cases? And I would make these AI engines my friend.
Right.
And almost like work partners, consultants.
Right.
And take full advantage of that. But don't like when I came to Atlanta in 1998 to help with Auto Trader, taking it on the internet, my dad's like, you're going to Atlanta with my grandchildren. He said, to sell cars on a computer. He said, that's never going to work. Great
Sorry,
send-off.
Dad.
Yeah. Like 4 years later, my brother tells me that, 60% of their business comes from Auto Trader. So,
right.
And so, but then I find myself saying to people, oh, that's never going to work. So
sure.
I guess to your question, I would try to stay as open-minded as possible.
Yeah.
Because technology is moving and it's moving quickly. It's going to move faster. And, we have to be opportunistic
right.
in how we how we take advantage of it.
And I think that's a good point. I mean, it all, you said it earlier, it provides opportunity for other businesses to come up and around whatever it is that develops. So we don't need to be so, every new technology that's been introduced over society has always produced more work, not less. So, right. Which is good for the economy and good for individuals to have work.
And, it's just a testament to, I think, Cox family being really excited about automotive and the future of it, because again, they think in decades, not quarters. And as Cox Automotive team, we just want to make sure, mobility team, for sure, want to make sure we're on top of these new innovations in a way that makes sense for dealers, consumers, OEMs. We're a little bit in the middle because we have value in all those constituents. Right. So, we're truly going to do what's best for the industry.
Yeah, it's an exciting place to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Joe, I've really loved this conversation. On a personal note, I will just say maybe our audience hasn't heard yet that you are retiring at the end of this year.
Yep.
Personally, that makes me very sad. I've so enjoyed knowing you over these last 5 years and having your mentorship and getting to have these types of conversations. But I know that the company also is very grateful for all that you've given the company and the industry. And I think this is a wonderful way to sort of tie up all of your experience and be able to share the future of mobility. We all need to be thinking about these things carefully. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a great run.
It has been. I hope I have that same luck.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you everyone
else. Good luck to you, because you're my pension insurance, so I'm cheering for you.
I appreciate that. I need that. I need that encouragement. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone, all of our listeners that tuned in today to hear this story around how we think about mobility here at Cox, but also hearing it from the mouth of the man that helped us become Cox Automotive Mobility. Please always remember to share and subscribe to our website and our podcast, and check out coxautoinc.com for insights and other episodes from Auto Market Brief. Thank you so much for being here.